We're still in Ephesians 2, and Delaney just said, I just don't understand how you...
Piggybacking on the last episode, I don't understand. Christians say, supposedly, that grace is all that is needed. They add on with works. You also have to live this way. That's like variable depending on the person, what they add to it. I would say that most Christians, individuals, would start with grace, though. Like, that's needed. Then they add on to it. So if we just get to the essential, that our sin is covered by grace. Yeah. And they would say, we just have to accept it. You don't have to do anything. You just have to accept. In the same way that I think you're saying, where there isn't a work, they just have to accept. You're saying that they add on to it, and those are works, which makes their acceptance a work. But if that wasn't the case, you would be in agreement with the acceptance principle.
Yeah, I would agree with the acceptance, with the little subtle reminder that it's not our faith for accepting it. It's our faith in him and his faith in what he did.
Okay.
Because if you don't add that in, then there will be an increment of pride of a Christian who said, I've accepted it, and I am walking by faith and you're not.
Okay, before moving on to another question on that, we're accepting that we are having faith, choosing to have faith, that Christ had faith, that God, what?
Accepted
him?
Accepted his faith on his Father, as evidenced by the fact that he lived it perfectly. Okay. He did what we cannot do.
Christ demonstrated his faith in God through his life.
Mm-hmm. In everything he did.
Okay. And God was in him. Mm-hmm. That was the thing he had faith in.
He had faith. Now we start to get into God was in him like the Spirit's in you. Uh-huh. But he had the faith to let that reign over him completely.
Okay.
Okay. So, and he was Yeshua of Nazareth, a man. So he still was tried and tempted in all the things we are tempted in.
Okay.
That's the important thing to know. And because he was in flesh, he looked to his Father above as God. That was his God. Okay? And he had enough faith and love for his Father. He did everything that his Father wanted him to do.
Okay, but you would say, is it correct to say that he actually, so there's the man Jesus, there's God in him. Yeah. The faith that he had that led him to do everything right was actually removing the man and letting God work.
Amen.
That's what faith is.
That's what faith is.
Okay.
In his life, and that's what faith is in our life.
Okay. Not to us yet, just Jesus.
Okay.
That's what faith is letting God do the action instead of ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so he had that faith, but you said at one point he had faith that what led to in God's acceptance, that God accepted. You said that earlier.
He had faith based on his love for his Father. He trusted him that much.
Okay.
But so whatever I said there, I want to retract that statement.
It was just in the context that confused me. But so now Christ did that. He let God work in him perfectly. That is how you would describe Jesus's faith.
Yeah.
And so then,
and the motive was love. That's
okay.
The motive was not law. The motive was not self.
Okay.
The motive was probably not even us. The motive was his love for his Father. That's the first great commandment. Yeah.
Okay. And then he loved others by loving God enough to let him work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And loving God means having faith in him. He works through him.
We evidence our love for him by doing what he has us do.
And I keep harping on it, but doing what he has us do is not us doing something. It's us letting him do something.
That's right. When it comes to us, yes.
Okay.
As a Christian.
Jesus too.
Yeah.
Jesus too. Doing
Same
what
thing.
God
yes.
wanted him to do is actually a non-action. It's letting God do it.
And that's why he says, I do nothing of myself.
Okay.
That's a quote.
So then our faith that you're trying to distinguish is in the fact that happened in Jesus and that he did that perfectly.
Yes.
We have faith. So I've been understanding faith to act with us the same way it did in Jesus, where our faith is letting God work through us. But that's a direct me to God thing and allowing him. It sounds like that's not the case. We have faith that Jesus did it. What's that?
Okay, so there is, I'm just making this up for explanation, but there's saving faith, saved to the kingdom faith.
Okay, well that's, and save from and save to.
Yeah,
okay.
And then there's faith that is accepted and walked by in our own lives as a means to show our love for Christ and what he did for us.
Okay. That was where the original discussion about current Christians seems like they have it off, is in this part.
Yeah.
Where there's a difference between save from and save to. So how does this work? The saved from is we are already saved from because of Jesus.
Yeah.
Like that faith in Jesus is the saved from.
And we have faith in what he did to save us, to justify us.
So a faith in what Jesus did. Okay, so going off the fact that the definition of faith is like a removal of yourself, it seems like it's different. There's like two different kinds of faith.
Yeah.
Is that right?
You could say that, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
So a faith so there's this saved from faith, which is just an acknowledgement and a belief in the fact that God worked through Jesus perfectly through his faith.
Yeah.
We're saved from hell and all the punishment and stuff
Satan's
because that
grasp,
happened.
We trust that, yeah.
And we don't have to have that faith to receive the benefits of it. It is there.
It's there for everybody.
It's there.
Right. But to enter the kingdom, you have to say, I accept that. You can enter the heavenly realm.
What's the difference between what Christians say then? Because that is where it's like you were criticizing contemporary Christians for making faith into a work because their salvation from punishment is based on it. And that's the same thing to me.
Okay. Because it's not punishment anymore. It's all it is entering into the kingdom that comes only by faith in his son.
But it makes the faith an action in the same way. There's a consequence, but one is an eternal being separated from God forevermore in hell, Satan as your master, versus not entering the kingdom but having life and living faithlessly in the kingdom above. That's the difference. And it's also subtle. But the Christians are saying you have to, or you're going to be punished. Yeah.
In fulfillment, that is not true, because the punishment was removed and put upon, it was removed for our sin, and it was put upon the nation for their rebelliousness in 70 AD.
Okay.
So it's really, what we're talking about is justification and sanctification. Justification comes to all. Okay. Christians are still talking about it coming only to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But it is also the way you have to have been justified by receiving what Christ did in faith to enter into the kingdom. That is the mandatory thing.
Okay, hold on though. It seems like I've understood.
I love this. Keep going.
What you teach. Yeah, I hope it might be later. I've understood what you teach as saying justification is done with. Like, we've all been justified.
Right.
So we escape punishment.
Separation from God. Yeah.
Wait, hold on. I've understood it as we escape punishment, meaning everyone goes to the realm of the New Jerusalem, whether you're inside or outside the gate. Yeah. So we're doing, that's what I'm trying to say.
The New Jerusalem is a limited place. The heavenly realm is not the New Jerusalem.
The heavenly realm can be described, from what I've understood, can be described as either inside or outside of the New Jerusalem. No. Okay.
No, the heavenly realm is just like the earthly realm. Just like the earthly one, but there's only one Washington, D.C. There's only one.
Well, yeah, but you could say the entire world is outside of Washington, D.C.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Like, you're either outside of it or you're inside
I would clearly distinguish the heavenly realm between the New Jerusalem, which is where Christ and God dwell and is accessed only by faith, and outside of it, which includes realms that are even in this land, in this earth, and places that it's just like Buckingham Palace. If that's the New Jerusalem, exclusively only Buckingham Palace, and only those who are in there are children of God.
Yeah.
The rest of the world exists, but that's the earthly realm.
I'm just okay. I understand, but let's use Buckingham Palace. Okay, so I've understood Buckingham Palace is the New Jerusalem. Okay. So everyone that dies goes to the earth. The earth.
Yeah.
They go to the earth.
Using Buckingham Palace.
Using that as they go to the earth. That in itself is justification. Being not going to hell, right. Everyone's going to earth.
It is justified from your sin.
You're saved from punishment.
Yes.
You're going to the earth.
Right.
But so that type of faith is, I've understood as not relevant anymore, because we only go by the sanctification faith of if you are going into the Buckingham Palace or you're living in Africa.
I understand.
So where am I getting that wrong?
It's not getting it wrong. It's just you're failing to see that in order to be sanctified, you have to receive justification.
I do not understand how that is any different from what Christians say today. There's a punishment aspect to it.
It's not a punishment aspect, though. That's the difference. That when you say I don't see any difference.
But there's a consequence.
There's a consequence, but it is not punishment. It's not separation in the sense of going to a place that's cold and you're chained.
Okay.
And it's a good reward because of what Christ did for the world.
Okay, so actually the great news is not in contradiction with like the mechanism that Christians today use to describe how faith works. It's just that what the consequences is different.
Yeah, the consequences are different. It is subtly different than how Christians describe how faith works, for the simple reason they typically frame it, and they have chosen to believe.
I just don't get how that's different from, because you're saying we have to choose to believe. on Jesus's faith.
That's a distinguisher too, because they are not looking at believing and having faith on Jesus's faith.
I understand that difference.
They're looking at having faith in Jesus's acts of shedding his blood and dying and resurrecting. But the fact of the matter is, when a Christian says, I have faith, I'm going into the kingdom, they are missing that important part, that their faith is not enough, and that is a work. It is to allow his faith to be operative in your life, and that's where sanctification comes in. So explain again how you think the Christian view and what I'm saying are exactly the same. I know they're the same.
I don't think they're it just is that the conversation started because you were saying, you know, Christians don't have faith in Jesus's faith. And I see that as being different. Okay. Christians don't have faith in Jesus' faith. But that statement for you was linked to their faith becomes a work because they're not having faith in Jesus's faith. And our faith in Jesus's faith feels like as much of a work as their faith in their own faith.
Okay, so let's stand on that. The way I see it, and maybe I'm wrong, is there is a pride that comes with their way of saying my faith versus the humility that comes with saying I trust in his faith. That is the difference and why I make it a deal.
Okay.
Because when it's their faith, it becomes proud.
Okay. And so I understand the faith that we need to have to be sanctified, to get into the New Jerusalem, as doing that same thing, where we first, to have the justification, we accept Jesus's faith.
Yeah.
But we also have our own faith where we let God work through us in the way Jesus did.
Right.
Which is the same. It would lead to this same sort of pride that I think you're saying.
No, not if it is because you have been sanctified by him. He's the vine, we're a branch. And that's another distinguishing thing. Our sanctification is not through our own power.
I don't know if Christians would say it's by their own power either.
No, I don't think they would. I don't think that. And so in terms of sanctification, I don't think we're off. But in terms of justification, I have a little bit of a problem with how and by the way, sanctification does not get you into the kingdom. Justification gets you into the kingdom.
Into the heavenly realm.
Yeah, no, not the heavenly realm, the kingdom. Buckingham Palace. New Jerusalem.
Oh.
Yes.
No, wait.
No.
This is throwing me off. I'm so sorry
you can turn off the camera if you want.
It's not.
Keep going. Let's keep talking.
Like,
bring it back to what you don't understand.
Like, justification. Jesus dies, resurrects, returns.
Yeah.
That makes it so everybody is saved from the destruction, hell, punishment.
Yeah.
Meaning, justification is what puts everybody in the heavenly realm.
Yes.
Inside or outside of Buckingham Palace.
Believed or not.
Justification puts you in the heavenly realm, not in Buckingham Palace.
Okay, I'll agree with it. Puts you on the earth.
Yeah, so you were saying that justification gets you into Buckingham Palace.
Okay, and this is why it's both, because the justification, the free gift that gets everybody into the heavenly realm or on the earth outside of Buckingham Palace is a gift. That's a gift. Wow, I've died.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, now wait. Now let me finish. And what? Listen. But to get in the kingdom, you have to receive that. They don't receive it. The people in Uganda do not receive that to their life.
Okay, so there's actually like 3 tiers.
I am not saying there's 3 tiers.
No,
what
but
tiers are the 3?
There's the fact that Jesus got us out of punishment.
Okay.
Then there's accepting that, like you're saying, the existence of justification and accepting the justification are the difference between inside and outside. Where I thought it was justification and sanctification.
No.
Okay, so there's 3 tiers. There's not justified.
Don't say tiers, say phases, because it's about growing in it. It is not about going in levels.
I understand, but like,
go ahead, keep going.
You're justified and you don't accept it.
Yeah.
You're on the earth roaming.
Yeah.
You're justified and you accept it. You're in Buckingham Palace.
Yes.
And then you're justified and I don't even know what sanctification is.
Okay, now we can talk about that. Now, because we have accepted that we've been justified by Jesus' faith. Now, that's the key. Okay? Now, we are qualified to enter in no matter what. We're a blank slate. We don't have anything to offer. We can go in because he did it. And that's why it's so simple, and that's why Christians believe that. I just believe I can go in. But now, that faith that says, I trust in Jesus to do what he says and what he did, that faith then says, okay, and now I'm going to allow him to work through me. Okay? And when we do those works through him to us, we are being sanctified because we are allowing our fleshly will, which we all possess still, to die to his will.
Okay.
And the amount of sanctification that the individual allows themselves when living on this earth through Christ alone, that's rewarded in Buckingham Palace. Now you get a different room in Buckingham Palace.
And that's
rewarded.
Described in Revelation, like the different rooms and stuff.
No, but where it's described is in places like 1 Corinthians 15, where there are different resurrections.
Okay.
And where Paul says, I'm jonesing to have a better resurrection. And the resurrected bodies you get to inhabit that New Jerusalem are predicated on how much sanctification you allowed Christ to do in your heart and in your life. Does that make sense?
Okay. So yes, that makes sense. Christians today, I think, would describe the same, what did you call it? Not tiers, but
phases.
Okay. And I'm trying to distinguish what Christians have wrong and what they don't have wrong.
The only thing they really have wrong, because they would agree with the sanctification process.
Yeah. The phases are the same, but like there's different consequences.
They wouldn't see the sanctification process as ending in a better resurrected body. That's one.
Why?
Because they don't understand 1 Corinthians 15. They don't listen to it. They think we're going to get a physical resurrection.
Oh, okay.
They have all kinds of ideas about that.
Okay.
Second way that they're different is they think it's their faith that grants all of this, and it's letting his faith reign in them that grants it. That is a significant difference in the way they would teach it and the way we teach it.
And that's because, like, there are definitely individual Christians who probably see it as God's faith, as Jesus's faith. Like, they are humble enough.
Yeah.
You're talking about Christianity,
religion,
doctrinally, and that teaches that I'm trying to understand. I'm not saying.
No, it's fine.
You're saying that because I think they will say that they have faith in Jesus's faith.
Okay.
But they add, because they all talk about grace. They all talk about just accepting it or whatever. But they add to it. They say you have. So is that how you're able to say their faith is a work?
Absolutely. That's a second way I say it, because they say, now that you have believed, you better.
Okay.
And that's not how it works either. Okay. That's religion. And they also say, now that you believed, get baptized. Okay, well, that's not part of it.
Yeah, don't live in sin.
Yeah, don't live in sin. We're going to punish you now. All of that stuff is plain religion.
Okay.
And it strips us from Christ.
Do you think that is them? Like, okay, to me, it seems like they're talking about the same phases where you're living in unbelief, not justified, going to hell. So the consequence is off, but the phases are the same. You accept it, or you accept it and you change the way you live. Sanctified.
Yeah.
So I feel like they are following the same
That's
phases.
fine, and that's why I don't judge people who say I'm a Christian. What I judge is the method by which they articulate.
Okay, I hear what you're saying now. So they, because they say it's their own faith and not faith in Christ's faith, they accept Jesus's grace, or the grace they've received through Jesus, that to become justified or accept the justification, and then they fix themselves. They don't let God change. Like sanctification is how you fix yourself.
That's right.
Not okay.
Well, sanctification biblically is not how you fix
for
yourself.
them.
But for them, yes. And that is a major chasm against religion.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. The phases are, because I hear the way you describe the phases as the same. And so I just I've wanted to say it's nuanced and maybe semantic, but it's not.
It's
like
not.
the means and the ends are very different.
Oh, and the irony of that, Delaney, is that the Christians pick on the Mormons.
Yeah.
Because of their means and ends, and they're the same.
Yeah. The Christians are really stupid. They really are. And they criticize things that they're fully guilty of.
And that's what I try to get those students that visit. And, but you can't break through that because it's so subtle. And so what it takes are discussions like these to break it open. And then people can start to learn and dialogue, and then it takes place in the narrative of the human mind.
Yeah. Because that's a criticism of you. Like, I think people will hear what you're saying as being like the same, because the mechanics of it are maybe similar. There's an acceptance part and there's a living a different way part. But the way that happens is so different.
Right. And that's founded in, to beat a dead horse, I'm sorry, but that's founded in it's the only thing I can relate to, my personal experience, where I had all kinds of problems and religion was not doing it for me because I saw through the stupidity of what they said. And that's from both Mormonism and Calvary Chapel, because they all operate by the same thing. So I said, when I came to the roadside experience, I'm going straight to God with everything. I've tested his effectiveness in change, and it works. So that's when I said, I'm an individual, and that's when subjectivity really gripped me. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. It's just like my head went to how did it get to this place where we do it instead of letting God do it in us?
Religion.
And it's like people it's a lack of faith.
Yes.
Like they're saying faith is demonstrated by something that's actually the opposite of faith.
It's a lack of faith, and what's even worse is you have to prove it to men. You have to prove to men that you don't have that lack of faith. How do you do it? By giving, showing up, doing all, and that's how religion owns you. Yes, you get
really the opposite.
High five down. Yeah, we worked through that, baby. Yes. How much time did that take?
That was 30 minutes.
Sorry, but it's worth it.
I hope everyone else had the light bulb moment that I did, but sorry if it was old news to you. All right.
I don't think it was, Delaney. I think what you're asking are profound questions that most people just assume differently on. So good job for being persistent.
Thanks.
We'll come back.
Yeah. See you next time.
Part 3.